And we're live. Hello, everybody. My name is Naomi. I am here hosting the Survivor Michigan Maized and Confused Season 3 podcast. And today we have our 8th and ninth place players. We have Emily B and Aliza with us, two Rob goddesses, ready to talk game. Aliza, how are you today?
I'm doing well given the COVID circumstances, but all's good. Can't complain.
And Emily, how are you?
Also doing pretty well as far as things goes. I'm in my second week of my senior year of college now.
Congratulations, but also I'm so sorry.
Yeah, at least I feel worse for the freshmen who are trying to meet people right now. So at least it's better than that.
Right. Oh, good luck making friends in COVID time. So we are here to talk about both the 8th and ninth episode of Survivor Michigan Maized and Confused. We had the de-merge, we had the re-merge, we had some stealing, some backstabbing, some fake idol plays, and some real idol plays. So we're about to delve right into it. We have the merged tribe. At first, it's Brady, Dylan, Cassie, Aliza, Devin, Austin, Will, Aaron, Emily P and Emily B. But then Emily P and Emily B are voted out in subsequent de-merge tribes. So let's start with the de-merge, because my very first question for you guys is the strategy of picking the cups and dropping out of the challenge. Did you know that Emily P was going to make a run for it and pick the cups? And then had you guys talked at all about what you guys wanted to do to try and get the numbers in your favor?
Honestly, how I remember it is that we had very little time from when they announced what was happening in the challenge to when we started it and had to decide, and each side was trying to listen into the other side, and we were also all talking about the email that Ben sent out. So we sort of tried to strategize, but I don't know, at least as far as I know, we didn't have any type of strategy really.
Yeah, I feel like we only had 2 minutes to talk it through, and in those 2 minutes we're just we need to be in the majority on the tribe, but we didn't think through the logistics of all of that.
Yeah.
That's where Survivor gets you, the math, numbers.
Yeah, I feel like it was quick math and just quick thinking, and then there was the aspect of people listening in what you said. That kind of I feel like in the chaos we just got confused.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting the sort of balance of do you drop out or do you hold on to immunity? Emily, so you basically drop before you can sort of process that you might need to win immunity. Am I right? That it kind of, you realize that you're totally screwed as soon as you drop, and it's this awful moment. I felt so bad. Can you walk me through it was essentially you and Devin deciding, right?
Yeah, so basically I think if I had one regret that week, it was definitely just preemptively dropping. Because I wasn't really planning to, but I think, at the very beginning, several people immediately dropped and ran, and I kind of panicked and did the game. And I should have not at all. But so then I ran up there, obviously, and there was one orange left, one pink left, basically. And it got to that point, and one of the things that isn't shown really is that if I remember correctly, first I had touched the orange, and then I had tried to take the pink, but a producer said oh, you touched the orange, you need to take the orange, but they hadn't said that at the beginning. So that's why I was paused there kind of. And also part of me was okay, maybe I should just wait till Devin gets here and we can figure out who would have it better on each tribe. Yeah, and then he kind of snatched it. So
oh, Devin.
It was rough all around there.
Now, when that happened, did you kind of feel it was oh crap, I'm stuck on this tribe moment? Did you know just how bad it was gonna get?
Yeah, I did. It was sort of a sinking feeling of doom, I guess. And that whole week really was. Because I talked, Erin gave me a ride home, and I talked in the car ride with her right afterwards. So I was sort of holding on to that hope that we would like work together and maybe be able to pull something off. But I didn't know that she was as close to Brady as she was at the time. So like obviously that never was going to work, but I didn't know that. So yeah, I would say as soon as like I saw that happen at the challenge, and then that whole week, I just sort of knew. I was desperately trying like as many things as I could to stay in, but I sort of knew deep down that it wasn't any good.
It was really like a worst case scenario for you guys because you do have such a big conglomerate of an alliance, and then it's like, what's the sort of most sort of stabilizing thing that can happen to you guys? Oh, let's just split you into 5 and 5, where there's a clear match on one side, and you guys have to go against each other on the other side. Which Aliza brings me to like Emily P. Now, Emily P has some stuff going on, so we're going to talk to her later. But
Okay.
Aliza, when you are on this tribe and you're like, do you know right away, I'm going to vote Emily P out, no question, nobody else is on the chopping block? Or was there sort of a consideration before deciding it was going to be Emily?
I think 100% was going to be Emily. And honestly, like, I think we used the excuse of like the Ben bomb as like a reason to vote her out. But 100%, I think it would have been Emily regardless. Like, I was super tight with Will. I think Devin felt really good with Will. Austin obviously had his relationship with Emily P, but I feel like between Devin and I, like I just feel like it was going to be Emily P regardless. And I think especially knowing that Emily B was going to be voted off, like on the other tribe, like we wanted to keep our tightest allies left. And I feel like while we were close with Emily P, she was obviously like a big part of our alliance. I think a lot of us felt closer with Will, and I don't think Devin ever was about to be voted out. I don't think that would have happened. At least I don't know. We can maybe eventually go talk to Austin. He'll say something different. But I think like it was always going to be Emily P. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think to both Emily's credit, you guys never give up. You try and try and try to weasel your way out of it. It reminded me a lot of Big Brother in that, like, you guys were on the block and you knew it was going to be your butt going home, and you were just trying any way you could. But also you knew, and you were very sort of perceptive enough to know that, like, there's only such a slim chance I can have. Emily, do you know what you were sort of saying? Do you remember what you were sort of saying to Erin to sort of bring her over to your side and what that could possibly do for you?
Yeah, so I mean, at that point, like obviously the previous 2 weeks I had been voting with Erin, you know, and we had been working together. So I was mainly trying to play off that more. Of course, I was nervous because the whole time where we did vote for, like, we did split votes on her, which was just a way of insurance, basically, because we didn't know we could trust her, because like we'd spent the whole game hearing Torfidi strong, Savu Savu, we hate them kind of thing. And we like did it so that if Erin was lying to us, she would go home, but if she was telling the truth, then Chloe would go home, which like worked. But then Erin, it was maybe she wasn't totally with us anymore. But I was trying to play to, that alliance that had been happening and say like, hey, I'm still like totally on board to be working with you. I really hope we can still work together. And then also I was, this was like not really game related, but obviously all of like those texts about her came out. So I did like talk to her and like meet up with her, just like not to talk about game, but just to like talk about those kind of thing. And I don't want that to be like seen as a game move really, but I was just trying to like be there for her as a person.
Right. And I think that, to your credit, like that's just a human move. You sort of see those messages and you say, well, let's be normal for a second. And I think, Aliza, you also sort of talk about it. I can't remember if it's earlier or in this episode where you're like, everyone says Erin sucks. I think Erin's great. Like, I think she's completely normal. And I think it's really interesting what the stress of Survivor can do to people, but it is really nice. And I think people are so quick online to sort of say like, oh, what jerks to, but also that it's not game. You're just being people, and you're going to say, hey, Erin, you don't suck, and we like you a lot, and I'm sorry this is happening to you. And I would hope that nobody who watched that thought that was just game, because I thought that was a very nice thing to do, a very human moment, and not any sort of like, oh, let me get your vote on the way out the door kind of thing.
And that was even like one of the weird dynamics about it is because I feel like we all like I like of course reached out to Erin, but I wasn't sure like the limits of how I could reach out to her. I was like, what if this will seem genuine? And what if this will seem like me just trying to be nice for the sake of like having her work with us or getting a jury vote or something. So it was like a weird situation.
We see that on Survivor all the time. I think about all those moments like just like Angelina comes to mind of like sucking up to people and how do you suck up to someone or how do you be nice to somebody without it seeming like it's being you're a suck up. It's very interesting, and I think it's you guys both handled it really well. But we also do see that Erin is so tight with this group of people who, especially Brady, who like never really hurts her feelings the way that the sort of Tormenta side does, and she really just kind of grabs onto him, and Emily gets screwed in the process. So, Aliza, I know you're a fan of the game. My question is, did you see any of this coming? Like, these sort of twists and turns. Early in the game, you're the one talking about, like, let's pretend this is an immunity idol clue. Let's do this and that. Did you see this coming? Did you see, like, a demerge? And then, like, the next sort of situation that comes up is, like, the steal or share immunity idol. What was your Survivor fan brain doing during this time?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there were certain twists that were more kind of understandable. Like, I think this prisoner's dilemma with the steal the immunity necklaces, that one wasn't too dramatic. And there were like certain other ones, like where two tribes would go to tribal, wasn't too dramatic. I think the demerge definitely like threw me for a loop. Like that one, I don't think and there's even like a confessional in the edit where like Will's like, what if they demerge us? And I'm like, that won't happen. But so I think that one definitely, like most of the other ones like are Survivor twists or I just thought were fun or interesting. This one was like, this totally screws up my game. So I think that's also why it was kind of a bummer.
And this had happened, the Ghost Island demerge had happened, right? This was like post Ghost Island and not pre Ghost Island, so you might have seen it.
I guess, yeah. Maybe I just like forgot or something. Yeah.
Forgetting Ghost Island is not an inexcusable offense. So I think what's really interesting is Emily, on your way out the door, you say you got 3 votes for Brady, which was hilarious. I absolutely love somebody on the way out the door saying, let me just stir the pot one more time as I take my walk. What was your goal when you said that? And did you believe it? Did you talk me through everything about stirring this shit up?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I
remember.
Okay, yeah, you can tell me about this. I remember, obviously, like, my emotions are really high. As soon as the camera cuts after, like, I get voted out, I'm, like, crying. So, my emotions are super high. I do remember, like, I feel like I discussed this with you, Aliza, like, being tribal to, like, figure out what, and if I remember correctly, it was because, like, we knew that people, like, perceived Brady as a threat, and, like, we wanted to sort of like stack on that, especially since like Brady didn't go for our plan to like save me and we can get out Austin the next week kind of thing.
Right.
Want to add on to that, Aliza?
Yeah, no, you pretty much covered. I think like you were kind of like doing us a solid, like on your way out, like knowing now that we'd be down in numbers. I feel like she was like we talked about like her putting a bigger of a target on Brady's back so that like the following week, like maybe Savu Savu and the rest of our alliance would have some wiggle room to maybe vote out Brady. So yeah, I think maybe that confession obviously wasn't shown, so I feel like it was probably confusing for people watching it maybe. But that was funny. We did discuss all of that. So.
Yeah, and we had heard and obviously like you had told me that Emily P had said something of a similar effect like when she got voted out. So we're like, oh, it'd be kind of funny if I just said the same thing.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
I think the target, like forming the target on Brady is super fascinating because he is both the most out there, but that doesn't mean he is like the biggest threat to win. He's just the most visible of that side because you have Dylan and Cassidy who are playing a very laid back game, which is nothing to shake your stick at, but they're very laid back, whereas Brady is out there, holding on to idols through rocks. He's trying his best. And so it's easy to pile votes on somebody like him, especially such a physical threat. Because I do think at that point in the game, he is such a huge physical threat. He's won a couple immunities, and that's probably scarier. Like a Mike Holloway situation, a guy who wins and wins and wins to the end. is much scarier when you're at like final 8 and you need to take him out rather than down the line at like final 5, if that makes sense. Like at that point he can't be stopped. So I that really was fascinating to me that Brady's the target. Here we go. Let's get him.
I feel like it was like one of those things where like, especially early on in the game, like him just being out there, like just like everyone was like, oh, if he's out there, he's a threat. And then I think later on, like he would call himself a threat, and we're like, okay, it's just like you know, like if that like the attention's on him, it's not on us, which is like a good thing. So, yeah.
Exactly. Like I'm trying to even think. I don't know if like everyone actually like believed that he was the biggest threat to win, but he was just kind of like collectively perceived that way, kind of, or like people collectively put that perception on him. So I think everybody knew that there was like no way he was getting to the end, but it sort of was like the group perception at that time.
And I remember like with Erin, especially like when we would try to like convince her to like vote him out, we'd be like, because he's such a big threat, you should vote him out, vote him out, vote him out. And like that was always our argument, like no one can't, whatever. So I think we had to
the perception of threat is so fascinating in Survivor. Everybody talks about it, but I think that like it is really interesting to say, hey, let's just try our best to make this one person seem like a huge threat and get them out. And my other question I had for you guys is, were you willing to lose Austin in the process when you were negotiating with Erin and things like this and negotiating with Brady? Was Austin actually sort of a pawn on the table, or was that always kind of like, this is BS, we're just going to say it because Austin is Austin at this point?
I mean, so I'm trying to think.
No offense.
I know from my perspective, it was real. And then I think, so I know I had this whole idea to sort of, you know, go to Brady and suggest that if he saved me, we could like agree to for sure take out Austin next. And I remember calling Aliza and like telling her about that. And then we actually had a meeting. It was like me, Brady, and Aliza. That wasn't in the episode, but we sort of had a meeting where we were like all discussing that plan basically. And I think I was the one who was obviously like saying this to Brady, so I was being genuine about it, and I would have actually voted out Austin next. I think, Aliza, if I remember correctly, you were like kind of more on the fence, and you were like, okay, I'm gonna like say I will, but I'm not sure if I'm like actually will, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think like that's kind of how I remember it too. You're like, if I say it, I want it to be true, just so that it can like seem legit, and he'll keep me around, or he'll keep me around. I feel like I was like, yeah, say it. I'll say it too. Who cares? And like we can decide next week what we want to do with Austin. I feel like I would have been less inclined to have voted out Austin because I feel like he was such a good like Savu Savu Alliance member. But like in that moment, I was like, let's do whatever we can to save Emily. So
I mean, Austin's a great Savu Savu Alliance member. He is pissed at the end of your vote, Aliza, and I cannot wait for tomorrow. It's hilarious. Yes, Emily, please.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna add that I think like at that point I had actually like started to be a bit sketched out by Austin because of like a variety of things. I think he was letting the other side was obviously like trying to like manipulate his emotions and like play on that to like get him to do what they wanted. So there was like the whole thing where he had called us and he sounded like he was seriously considering voting Devin off, and that was just, I don't need an alliance member who's going to be doing that kind of thing. And also just like, I don't know, if I remember like in meetings that the four of us would have, he was starting to sound like unwilling to vote off like Will or Emily or that kind of thing. So I was starting to get a little bit sketched out.
And that makes total sense. I think in your endgame and in Devin's endgame, Austin is not working to benefit you the most. So it makes total sense that you're like, well, we're going to get Austin out of here. It's interesting because I do think like Austin sort of has all these people he's protecting. But if he protects all three of them, like if he protects Aliza, Emily P, and Will, that makes him Final Four. But does he get to the end? And so it's really interesting to watch him weigh the sort of pros and cons of protecting the people he cares about. And I do think sometimes in these games, it's a benefit to lose a close ally because it means you don't have to go against them in the end. And at first, that's what I kind of thought about losing Emily, is that Austin would benefit from it. But then he lost Aliza, and I was like, oh no, I don't know where Austin's game's going now. But we'll see about that tomorrow. And like, so now we're moving on a little bit to the next episode. But Emily, do you have any other thoughts about this round, and especially going out sort of with Emily P, and maybe the question I was thinking of is like, do you guys have a point where you think you could have restarted from almost like a save checkpoint in a video game and tried again and done things differently? Do you know what that point in your game might have been? Maybe just holding out for immunity and not just running away.
I mean, honestly, yes, because I think that the only like real regrets that I have in the game are that, and then maybe not like reaching out soon enough to people on the other tribes from the beginning. But I had also seen like not even a season of CBS Survivor when I started season 3. So like I was kind of learning along the way. So I mean, I wasn't really gonna know that people were like reaching out to people on other tribes. So I don't really regret that. But I think that challenge would probably have to be the moment, because I mean, nobody was expecting a demerge. We were all completely shocked. And like if a demerge hadn't have happened, we had the majority, you know. I was in like, I guess things were definitely mixed up with like Emily P and Will after like all the emails, but you know, I had been like talking to Cassie in the past couple weeks, and like I think like, I don't know, I could have done something with, you know, Cassie and Dylan maybe to go against Brady, that kind of thing. So I think I would have been in a pretty good spot had the demerge not happened. So it's probably that challenge place.
It's a really tough position to be in. And also I think, not to mention that you are a college student trying to get good grades and do well in school. And so it's hard to talk to everybody on the other tribe when you're also trying to live your life. So, it's not the most embarrassing or ashamed thing in the world to not socialize with the other tribe, because you are, trying to get your money's worth out of college.
Yeah.
We're moving on to the next episode, and this I think we just got to get to like this steal or swap, because it's such an interesting prisoner's dilemma. But what ends up happening, I really want to kind of get into this, is you guys are really playing on Dylan and playing on Brady, getting them to try and do all these different moves. Aliza, what was your goal? What did you actually want to happen? I assume it would be both of them steal and then neither gets it, but like, what were you sort of trying to do?
Yeah, we had like a whole like idea of what would go down in every situation. So it was like, if both of them decide to share, we'll vote out Cassie. If Dylan steals, we'll vote out Brady. If Brady steals, we vote out Dylan. And if both steal, we vote out Brady. And so like I can't believe I just recalled that. But that was like the plan that we had. And so I think that's like the whole blackmail situation kind of gave me a chuckle watching this back, because I basically texted that to Dylan and I was like, hey, just like, I even read back my text the other day to see if it really sounded like blackmail, because I felt bad. But I like texted that to Dylan and I was like, this is what we're doing. I just genuinely think it's in your best interest to steal. This is why, like, I wasn't trying to manipulate him or blackmail him. So I feel bad that it came across that way. But like, that was like what our plan was. And so I think a lot of us tried to get Dylan to steal for that purpose. And it wasn't for the intention of having him flip and work with us. It was because like, if he did flip, if he did, steal, it would be like just like a good general game move. I think like, obviously Aaron kind of was in on like all of our, and this kind of goes into like other things in the week, I guess. Like Aaron obviously knew every breakdown of every situation. I think going into that week, obviously we needed Aaron as like a fifth to make it so it wasn't a tie. And like, I think part of me like was very unsure if I should trust Aaron. And I think that whole, like the whole game really thus far, there was a lot of like, is Aaron with us? Is Aaron not with us? Like each week we kind of weren't sure, but each week Aaron actually was with us. And then especially an episode that I wasn't voted out, the ramifications of the Ben bomb, like you don't see it on the screen, but like on a personal, like what we were feeling, what we were talking about, like it was still really, like we were still thinking of it. And so I think in my mind at the time, like I just felt too bad lying to Aaron again and being like, actually, if plans change, like let's not tell Aaron the real plans or whatever. And
right. And I don't think you're I don't think you guys are wrong, like you said, for trusting Erin. Erin has voted with you a bunch. It's just that this is the time she chose to make her move. And I think, Emily, this is kind of, it starts with you, is you guys do trust Erin and you're hoping that Erin will work with you. It's just that Erin sees better options on the other side, and that's her prerogative. But I don't think you guys are necessarily like stupid or like, oh, this is such a dumb move to trust her, because you want to show her that she's part of what you're doing. And so, you know, it's not like bad gameplay. It's just that you had the swing vote also had an idol. It's like the worst possible spot you could have somebody in. And so, Aliza, early in the episode, you talked about how you didn't think Brady was that big of a threat, but, you know, you're also pushing the threat target on him. If Brady is not the big threat, who in your mind were the big threats to win at this final 8?
At final 8, like based on who's left in the game, I would say the person who like I perceived as a big threat was Will, because the thing that I value kind of most, and like for example, as a jury member, like what I want to see in a winner, like what I value in Survivor players is really just like knowing what's going on in the game and like being in control of what's happening in the game. And I thought at final 8, Will was one of the only people left in the game who always knew what was happening, except for obviously maybe we were voting out. But before that, he always really knew what was happening, and he was in control of a lot of situations. But I think like, because a lot of, I feel like Emily P and Emily B were obviously big threats. And so people like left in the game also, I feel like Erin, specifically her move with like playing an idol and flipping, that's like a damn good move that earned her a lot of respect and like a big like target, or just like a big, just like a big threat status or whatever. So I feel like that was good. And I feel like a lot of the other people were kind of playing under the radar. Like nobody had any idea that Dylan and Devin were in this relationship or whatever. I also really respected Dylan for stealing. I thought that was a good like step up move for him. Yeah, everyone was playing a good game.
Yeah, so let's talk about Devin's endgame plan. Did you guys have any idea he was like behind your back? And he's right to do it. Like Dylan and Cassie are more beatable than, you know, Aliza, Emily, and Will. Did you guys have any idea this was going on? And what did you think about it, seeing it sort of play out? Or, you know, we don't know what you've heard later on, but like seeing it play out on the screen, what did you think about Devin's sort of sneaky behavior?
I mean, I didn't know. I wish that he had said at least like something along the lines of, oh, you might be able to like work with Dylan here. Because he said, I was in a tribe with Dylan and he said absolutely nothing to me about it. So that kind of sucks. But I mean, seeing it now and watching the episodes, like, I think it was a good move for him, because I think people were definitely perceiving Devin as like not doing anything really, even though like we see that that's not really true, but that definitely was his perception throughout the game, that he kind of just like wasn't talking to many people, being very behind the scenes. So I think it was definitely good for him to have this, you know, tight alliance on the other side.
But I mean, it's super interesting when you say that the perception is they're not talking to people, just because I think in any other game, that is I guess it's not something that translates to like live reality games that are often like very short and sporadic and everybody's talking to everybody and figuring stuff out. It's really interesting that like in a game where conversations are very hidden, everyone just kind of gets painted with the, oh, they don't really talk to people. Oh, they don't really do much. Like, you know, Dylan and I think Cassie and Devin are all getting painted with this sort of like brush of they don't really talk to a lot of people and therefore they're not playing very hard. And so it's really interesting to see like the behind the scenes machinations and realize that the people who aren't talking to many people are talking to each other and working things out. Sorry, Aliza, I cut you off. What do you have to say about Devin and his snake-like behavior?
No, I guess I really just agree with Emily. Like, we obviously had no idea what was going on during the actual season. We found out after. I also kind of agree that it would have been like kind of nice, like especially the week that I was voted out and the week that Emily was voted out. Like, I feel like if he had like said something, we could have made different moves. Like seeing that he knew that Erin had the idol and like other things like that. I feel like, and like that Dylan was really confident that Erin was with him. I feel like we could have made moves, but I can also see how like it was beneficial to Devin in other ways, and maybe that he just didn't want to expose that relationship, or he didn't want to go again with me and all of that. Yeah.
So Emily, while you're on the jury, if you can sort of transport your mind back to this one tribal council, and you're on the jury watching this tribal go down. When you hear about the steal, did you know about the Steelers save beforehand, or was it you had kind of logged off from the game and you were just showing up to tribal and seeing what was going on?
I'm trying to think. They didn't. So like we had like a Ponderosa, like we had like a jury chat or whatever. But I don't think that they, if I remember correctly, I don't think they told us about the steal share thing. They told us like who won the challenge, I think, and then they just said, "Oh, here's when tribal is, like, come." So I was like learning of it when they were like announcing it at tribal, and it was definitely very interesting. It was super dramatic to watch. It was really fun to watch. But I think I obviously didn't know what any of their plans were. I mean, I knew that they were trying to target Brady, but obviously I didn't know what was going to happen once the idol had been played for him. And yeah, I was just as surprised as anyone else when like the first Aliza vote was read.
I also had a question. I realized I wrote this down. All my notes are like out of chronological order. Erin's idol, when Erin lies and says she doesn't play it, it's like this weird rumor that I can't figure out who knows the truth and who doesn't. Did you guys at that point know that Erin was lying about playing it, or did you know that Erin had the idol still? I don't know. Help me process, Aliza, who knows what lies.
I can explain that for sure. So everybody who was obviously at that tribal council where Emily B was voted out, they all knew that Erin did not use her idol. The issue was none of those people were in like my alliance or the people that were, like on like my tribe. And, it was basically divided by alliances, how the tribes worked, with just Emily on the wrong side. And so like from our side, nobody knew what happened. And we all reached out. Like I was texting with Dylan a bit, and he told me that Erin did play her idol and that they did flush it. And obviously, like nobody kind of knew what to believe, but everybody in my alliance was being told that Erin had played her idol, with the exception, which I just saw, that Dylan told Devin.
Right.
But Devin didn't tell any of us.
That is really fascinating. I think the Devin end game is really shaping up, and I think these moves are really good examples of Devin's sort of, I know you guys can't comment much, but Devin's sort of path to the end of he's holding with information back from you guys, but it's really benefiting him. Except for maybe, I don't know what the hell's going to happen now that you're gone, but we'll see. But at the same time, I do think that you are a big threat in the way of Devin succeeding. So maybe losing you is a good thing. We'll have to find out. But so Erin's idol is a shock to you when she whips it out.
I mean, it's not a shock. Like,
it's not a bigger shock.
Yeah, we're kind of like, we're not sure if she has it or not. Like, nobody has, like, or at least Devin and the other tribe does. I mean, the other alliance does. But we're kind of just, like, unsure. Like, we know that the prospect of them lying to us is very real. And so we are kind of just hedging our bets, I think, going into that vote.
Were you guys ready to go to rocks? Because if you vote for Brady and they all vote for Aliza, let's say idols played wrong, it's 4-4. Do you think that those? Here's my guess: Devin flips. But were you guys ready to go to rocks at that situation?
Yeah, this is also obviously a scenario I've run back in my head like 1,000 times in the last 2 years because it's like tribal I was voted out in. Yep. So like, I asked my alliance after the fact, like, would you have gone to rocks with me? Like, if we had, instead of flipped our vote to Brady and kept it on Cassie and Erin played her idol wrong, like, would you have gone to rocks? And they all said yes, including Devin. I don't know if Devin actually, like, I don't know, like, Devin maybe in the heat of the moment would have flipped. Erin had also always said every single week, like, I will not go to rocks, period. I will flip. I don't care. So I don't know if she would have flipped also. And if both of them flipped, it would have, like, counteracted each other.
Right.
So it's kind of like a big question mark. Personally, I wouldn't have gone to rocks because like there only would have been a couple of people picking rocks, and I feel like you would have had like a 25% or like something like that chance of picking the wrong rock. So I never would have gone to rocks with those odds. But other people told me they would. Like I know Austin and Will told me they would. Devin told me he would, but I don't know if he meant it or not. So
yeah, we got to get Andrew in here to talk about the odds of anyone swinging that rock. So that, I mean, it's such a really fascinating final 8. I don't think we've actually seen a final 8 this interesting in a long time in College Survivor. I also have a shit memory, so that might be like totally. But I think this is really like a really compelling sort of final 8 situation. And Aaron plays the idol, and also Dylan steals. So at that point, you guys are like, awesome, we're gonna vote out Brady. This rules. Did you have any idea that Aaron was so close to Brady, close enough to play her idol for him? And do you think in your head, was there ever a plan to vote for Cassie and just take Cassie out in this situation? Like vote for person C so that they don't play the idol correctly, or was it always going to be Brady?
So this is kind of what I touched on earlier, but I probably didn't explain it well. Like in my mind, I had said, like, what if we just keep the vote on Cassie just in case Aaron's lying to us? But I think it's kind of going back to the point, like I remember Will even responded, like, I just can't lie to her anymore. Like I don't want to do it. And so I think because of that, like I had floated the idea, but I don't think many people wanted to go through with it just because like we weren't playing for $1 million. And I think everybody kind of felt really nasty about the idea of hurting Aaron's feelings more if she was actually on our side.
Right.
About your question with Aaron and Brady, I feel like we all knew they were pretty close because there was like a previous week where like we had thought about voting, like when Ben was voted out, we had floated voting out Brady and like Aaron was against it. So I think we knew they were pretty tight. I think like maybe the idol thing, maybe I don't really remember. I think like from my perspective, I'm so like selfish and I would never play an idol on somebody else. I feel like when I had my idol, like that was only ever going towards me. So maybe like that was a bit of a surprise, but like I don't know. I can't really remember honestly.
Yeah, there's so many relationships in this game that you kind of assume everybody's working with everybody, at some point or another.
Yeah, Brady didn't really hide their relationship, I wouldn't say. I mean, maybe Emily just agrees with me.
She's just hyping him up. She's like, Brady's the best. We're texting all the time. I like to see that Aaron is actually very positive, sort of coming off the heels of the Ben bomb. It sort of reassures that it is a fun game. So now that we sort of recap the episodes, is there anything else you guys want to touch on? I wanted to ask you guys how you got involved with U Michigan and how you got involved with Survivor Michigan. Is what I meant to say, and then I said U Michigan instead. And what brought you into playing Survivor Michigan?
Yeah, you start.
Okay, I can start. Yeah, so I got into it. I'm friends with Abby from season 2. She's in my a cappella group. And my like freshman year of college, she was like doing season 2 at that time, so she would always like talk about it and everything. And then like over the summer, I saw the app on Facebook and I was like, oh yeah, this is like what Abby did. Like that sounded so cool. And then I just applied and yeah, that's how, like I wasn't a fan of the show or anything. I only started watching it like after I got on. Which like now I like the show. I wouldn't call myself a super fan or anything, but like I've seen a couple more seasons and I like it a lot. But yeah, that's how I got into it. And I'm like so happy. It's like the best thing that I've done in college because I've like stayed involved. Through now, like I'm like an executive producer. So,
oh, that's awesome. I mean, as I graduated college a couple years ago, but like when I think about what I wanted in college, something like this, something that bonds you together with lots of people from all different sort of walks of life and gives you friends. It's like such a powerful group and community. So it's really cool to hear that everybody like sticks with it and sort of join. It feels like a theater club in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I was a theater kid in like high school, and it's definitely, it definitely is like it's the best like community that I found in college. I think and especially like it has like such a unique mix of people like from all different like schools and majors and like other extracurriculars they do, and it's great. Yeah.
And Aliza, so as a Survivor super fan, did you know? So I don't want to like put words in your mouth, but I believe you describe yourself as a super fan. You're the one who's talking about the merge music, which made me laugh so hard. But so what brought you into Survivor Michigan?
Yeah, so I am a pretty big fan of Survivor. I think there's kind of super fans that are bigger than me. Like I unfortunately haven't seen every season. But I've seen most of them, I would say, and I do love Survivor. I think I originally saw like a post for it on Facebook, but it was like the semester I was going abroad, and I didn't really I was like, it won't work, whatever. And then that semester that I was away from college, Bailey from season 2 was playing, and she hasn't we were friendly. We have a mutual friend that we're both really close with, and he was updating this friend of mine, her name Paige, and then Paige was telling me what was happening, and so I remember hearing these things and being like, wow, this sounds really fun. So then the next semester when it came out on Facebook and I saw it again, I was like, ooh, let's apply and see what happens. And I remember there was a question that was how did you find out about this? And I put oh, I know somebody kind of who played, and Survivor Michigan emailed me back and was who do you know? And so I was Bailey, and I had to DM Bailey and being I just name dropped you just so you know, I hope it's okay. And she was so nice about it. But yeah, that's kind of how I got to it.
I do that all the time when I cast for Survivor New York. It's who sent you? Who told you about this?
Yeah.
That's so funny. And I love the Michigan community so much. You guys are kick-ass. I'm friends with Paddock, but I'm also friends with Sarah from season 1. And it really is such a fascinating group of people who are really kick-ass. I have a lot of love for the game, but also you guys really allow yourself to be vulnerable and allow us to sort of peek in on a lot of tough emotional stuff this season that I think everybody is handling really well and with a lot of grace, which is really hard considering how obnoxious people can be on YouTube comments. So kudos to you both, because it's a lot. And I think you guys are doing an awesome job of sort of handling it. And Cooper is too. Hashtag get Coop a girlfriend.
Cooper. My mom texted me after this last episode and included the hashtag somebody buy that man a shirt in reference to Brady.
That's so cute that your mom watches too. I love that. My parents did not watch season 1 of Buffalo, and it's fine. So do you guys now that you're on the jury, what are you looking for in who you vote for? Because that's, in as much sort of vague detail as you can really describe, what are you looking for in the winner of Survivor Michigan season 3? What are you prioritizing in your winner? Doesn't have to be the same thing, please. Everyone's winner is unique, but do you remember what you were looking for having been voted out going to these tribal councils? What maybe moves or what sort of style of gameplay you were looking to reward with the win?
Yeah, I feel I like bigger gameplays kind of, but I think it's obviously tricky sometimes for people with big games to make it to the end of the season. So I think what I was looking for was just people who made smart decisions. I liked it when people were kind of, as I said before, on the right side of votes or in control of votes, hopefully. And so I think that's what I was looking for. Just a general good game. I don't really know.
Yeah.
I think everyone who's left kind of had good talking points. So I was kind of open. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I guess for me it was really gonna depend on who gets to the end and speeches at the end, but obviously I wanted somebody who had been making good decisions throughout the game, but I think something else that maybe would get extra points for me is somebody having to work through difficult positions or difficult situations and overcome them rather than just being in a position where everything is always super easy for them to make it through.
Right.
I like that.
you want the adversity. You want the heroes.
Yeah.
You want this all this big, powerful. The music swells and the waves crash on a big rock, and they overcame everything. So, do you guys have a favorite season of Survivor or favorite Survivor contestant? Somebody that you were. I know Emily. You did not watch Survivor beforehand, but is there anybody that if you ever played again or when you were playing, you would want to kind of model your game after? I'm very curious as Survivor fans, then also a recent Survivor sort of convert. Who are people that really stand out to you as people you'd like to play like?
Oh, you can go first, Aliza.
Yeah,
Because had more time to think about that.
Yeah. Sure. I think I love the strong women of Survivor. I think my favorites have been Parvati, obviously, and I really love Kelly Wentworth. I think they're just super strong, smart, well-rounded, good game players. And I think that's like what I try to mimic in my own game.
I think to be perfectly honest, I haven't seen enough of Survivor to like be able to have a player that I would confidently say I would base my game on, but I do also enjoy both of those people that Aliza listed, and I also remember being a big fan of Ozzy when I was watching Cook Islands. Those are a few that
shout out to Ozzy and Cook Islands.
Yeah.
Everyone's favorite player for that whole season. So is there anything else, any fun behind the scenes stories or anything else you guys want to talk about before we wrap it up? It's 10:30 at night. I'm sure you guys have bedtimes. I don't know. I don't. I never sleep anymore. But any fun behind the scenes stories that you can think of? Have we gotten Cooper a girlfriend? All the, whatever you guys want to. Sorry, I'm so tired. I'm going nuts.
I don't know, Emily. Anything come to mind? I'm sure there's like 1,000 little.
Right.
I mean, yeah. I don't know. Like,
is there like a favorite maybe relationship that you don't think got shown enough? A relationship where you had a lot of fun with somebody and it didn't really make camera as much as you thought it would. Like Emily, you sort of talking about Cassie a little bit. There's lots of things that end up on the cutting room floor. I don't know if anyone's relationship comes to mind.
I think like for me, if that would be anybody, like I would say it would be the relationship between me and Devin. Cause there's not really, I don't think there were any like clips that it was like just us talking, but we sort of like had this alliance like of just us from day one that we were like, okay, we're gonna like keep it kind of like low key, but sort of like long game alliance sort of. So throughout the game, I think like I considered like it was sort of like tied Aliza and Devin for like my number ones. And then later in the game, it was definitely more you, Aliza. But like, I think, yeah.
I think my favorite moment, like when I look back on my Survivor experience, my favorite like moment in confessional is after the tribal where we played all the fake idols and Sarah went home. Devin and I went back to my house and we immediately called Emily and we're like, come over right now. And there's like a mini clip of it shown in the episode, but that was like 2 hours of us just like screaming and jumping. And like, I think we were just falling on the ground at one point and like hugs. And it was just like such a great moment. It didn't like, obviously we couldn't put all the time, like at the full confessional, but it was like a great.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I was just saying, you have a good alliance when you were like, listen, I've been hiding an idol this whole time. And there's like, awesome, sweet, we're here.
Yeah. You guys are super understanding.
No, I know. I mean, I was like very shocked, but I mean, yeah, no, I think like throughout season 3, I feel like the best moments were like we had so many late night meetings at your house, Lisa. Like it would be like I would get home, like I got home after something and it was like 2 a.m. and you called me and we're like, oh, like we're meeting, like want to come over? And I was like, yeah, sure. And then I just like leave again and go to her house. Yeah.
It was really fun.
Oh my God. What? I'm just as like that college energy of like, hey, we're hanging out. It's 4 a.m. You want to hang out?
Yeah.
Totally.
Before that tribal council also with like where Sarah was voted out, like Devin was over when we were talking through our plans. And he's like, what if I just bring a beer? And I was like, a beer, take it, do it. And it created this really funny scene.
I love that. Can I like bring one beer? It's adorable. We love to see it. And also, Aliza, the you and Ben sort of Jew alliance never panned out, which I was very sad to see as a Jew myself. I was like, this is devastating. I thought this was gonna go all the way.
So we did talk a bit more than what was shown. Like that showed kind of our first meet, but in a couple of weeks after that, like we would talk a few times. Like after the Rocks tribal, I sat down with Will and Ben for like an hour and was like, this is what happened. Like apologizing for throwing their names out and all these things. Yeah, like we did talk more than anything the show showed, but we didn't really have like a real, like we both were clearly on different sides. Like there was a time where like Ben came and got coffee with us, like on Saturday.
Yeah, I remember that. We like before we knew how untrustworthy Ben is like so easy to like I love Ben. So we had coffee and we're like, oh my God, like we're gonna be working with Ben. Like this is great.
Yeah. It's so funny. And also I think Ben really has you guys sort of like you're with him, you're not with him, and that in the fake idol tribal. So it's really funny to sort of I think that's one of the more obvious sort of deteriorating relationships that you can sort of see happen. You're not being, reamed out like Will is, but it is kind of obvious that from that tribal council things don't work out. But it is really, it's really interesting to see like who just kind of is like, wow, this person's great. I love this person. Let's work with this person, and then it just immediately goes to and everything kind of explodes.
Yeah. We all love each other now, but
Yeah.
everybody's a happy family. We love it. So going forward, okay, you guys are on the jury. Is it going to get crazier? Is my question. Is it going to get even crazier? Austin is pissed. Is it going to get crazier?
Survivor always gets crazier, especially near the end. Everyone runs around with their heads cut off. Like, it's inherent. I mean, like in a kill or be killed type situation, like people are inherently crazy. So I would yes.
Yeah, no, same. I'm very excited to like watch these episodes now because I just have the jury's perspective, from these remaining weeks. So
and I can't wait. To have you guys on the jury is a real treat. You guys are both very sort of perceptive and really tuned into the game. You care about what's happening, and so to have you on the jury and have you guys picking a winner is really exciting. And I assume there's no, bitter feelings going in, but, you're allowed to be bitter if you want. But I think, like, you guys are very even-keeled. So it's exciting to see that you guys will at least be on the jury after the devastating reveal that Jesse was not on the jury, which still hurts, but we're okay.
Oh, my God.
All right. Well, I think that is going to wrap it up for tonight. If you want... Just my one plug is that Survivor New York Season 3 is coming out on September 25th. It is our Blood versus Water season. It's going to be crazy. I have buffs behind me there. I can't really – all right, whatever. And I hope that you guys will tune in because we're going to be podcasting about that as well. Survivor Michigan airs tomorrow. You're probably not going to hear this tomorrow, but it airs every Wednesday at 7 p.m., and so tune in. Make sure to live chat in the YouTube stream as well, because that's a lot of fun. And I'm usually there talking about how old I feel. All right, guys. Thank you, Aliza and Emily, for joining me. It's a real treat. I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to talk with us. And I wish you all the best and a nice, safe year at college and wherever you are.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thanks so much for having us.
No problem, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
All right.